More than a dozen street protests have shaken several Chinese cities in recent days after a deadly fire killed 10 people in a locked-down apartment complex, sparking widespread anger over the nation's strict COVID controls. At the White House, the reaction has been measured.
Our message to peaceful protesters around the world is the same and consistent. People should be allowed the right to assemble and to peacefully protest policies or laws or dictates that they take issue with.
But the administration is speaking carefully about Beijing's strict management of the pandemic, which has led to school and business closures and kept tens of millions of people housebound.
A lockdown is not a policy that we support here. But obviously there are people in China that have concerns about that, and they're protesting that, and we believe they should be able to do that peacefully.
Okay. On Capitol Hill, U.S. lawmakers are more blunt, highlighting protesters' complaints about Chinese government censorship, symbolized by pieces of blank white paper.
We're seeing the Chinese people stand up against the draconian approach of the Communist Party of China, and concerned not only about the COVID policies, but also about the censorship. So, as I've said, my beef is not with the Chinese people. I think the Chinese people are expressing their desire to have more freedom and less censorship in their own country, and I stand with them.
China's government has pushed back against the charge that the apartment fire, which happened in northwestern China's Xinjiang region, home of the minority Muslim Uyghur people, is related to their pandemic policies.
It's true that on social media there are forces with ulterior motives that relate this fire with a local response to COVID-19.
He did not say when the government's policy would end. Those watching closely say one thing is clear. These protests are extraordinary.
That is the type of thing that gets people thrown in jail. So it is a real shock that people are willing to say that in public out loud and be recorded, and try to also mobilize other people to support that. I mean, it's a sign of just how frustrated people are. Now, I wouldn't say that this is, a movement or anything like that, but it does signify that this is different than, again, normal protests in China are usually much more localized.
And it's clear that these strict policies intended to stop the spread of the virus are not stopping the spread of discontent. Already, protesters have marched in other cities around the world, with a protest by members of the Uyghur community at the State Department's door in Washington on Monday. Anita Powell, VOA News, the White House.